Hello chess friends, National Master James Canty III here with Chess.com, and today we have Game of the Day with Tata Steel Chess 2021. With the white pieces we have Magnus Carlsen, and with the black pieces we have Alireza Firouzja. Let's get right into today's game. Here we go. We have d4 and knight of 6, c4 and e6, knight of 3, and here we go, guys. d5, right? Queen's Gambit decline here, something that we're all familiar with here. It's a very solid opening, played in World Championship level. Knight to c3 and knight b to d7. You also have bishop e7 as well. These moves transpose. They can go with hand in hand. Sometimes you'll play bishop e7, sometimes you'll play knight b to d7. This was a favorite of Kramnik's as well. So after knight b to d7, we have bishop to g5 here. Very good move. It happens all the time, actually, in this opening here. You want to get the bishop usually outside of the pawn chain and not inside by locking it in. That's usually not that good, guys, because now you only have one good bishop here. So why would we do this to our bishop? We're going to move him outside of the pawn chain and then maybe eventually follow up with the e3 move after removing our bishop from inside the pawn chain. Bishop g5, h6, immediately attacking the bishop, questioning, are you going to take on f6? Are you going to retreat? Are you going to go back to the king side, keep the pin going? What are you going to do here? Very nice move, also with a tempo as well. Bishop to h4, keeping the pin going, and we just break the pin. Very simple. We don't want to sit in these type of pins here, so bishop e7 immediately just breaks this pin. And then we have a delayed exchange in a way from Magnus here after c takes d5, and c takes d5. You can take with the pawn. Alireza chose the knight here, but c takes d5. The reason sometimes you don't want to capture with this pawn, now that is a good move, no problems at all, but sometimes you want to play c5, most times, especially in the Queen's Gambit decline, or if you're playing with the black pieces, period. It's a very key note and a good move to play c5 at some point in the game with the black pieces. So usually you like to do it early on, but this will allow us to have an isolated pawn. So if we do have this isolated pawn here, this is not going to be that fun. This is definitely a target, maybe even losing almost immediately here, having this isolated pawn here. So he actually chooses a knight takes d5. Alireza captures with the knight here and doesn't want any isolated pawn situations. And if we do, we're going to do it on our terms here. So knight takes d5 and also at the same time exposing this bishop. So Magnus trades it, bishop takes, queen takes, and then e4 is on the board here. Very nice move. Knight takes c3 and pawn takes. Very nice center for white here. Now, of course, there's two sides to a center. The person that has it, which is white here, the person without it that has is black, which is not the strongest center. E5 is going to have to be a move, or c5 here with these two sides to the center. The person with it, Magnus here, needs to make sure that it's covered, it's defended, and that we can use it and play around it. And as black here, we need to make sure that we can attack it as much as humanly possible to make this the center very, very weak and attack it and win some pawns from it. Let's continue. After castles, there's bishop d3. We have to develop. Phase 1 still is development. Phase 2 is king safety. Phase 3 is everything else. And now after bishop d3, there's c5. Here we go. c5, he's now attacking the center here. So if we capture on d4, especially after castles, and what happens? He captures on d4. Now how much weaker are these pawns in the center? They were very strong, right? But now they're a little bit weaker. Not that they're weak now. They are a little bit weak, but they were stronger before. These pawns are kind of by themselves. This one's sort of isolated because there's no pawns that can defend it. It can only be defended by pieces, the queen and the knight, maybe the rook as well. But we do have this diagonal to use. We have some space, and space is an advantage. So let's see what happens. Black's not too bad though. I mean, we do have some development going. b6 is coming. Maybe move the rooks to the file, try to get this bishop out, and just have a great game and try to be at least equal here, which black actually is. After c takes d4, there's b6 here. Great move, trying to fianchetto my bishop. And then we have this beautiful move here actually from Magnus here. Makes so much sense. Practical move, a4. What this does is we're going to make a weakness here. It's 2 versus 1, and we're going to make a weakness by playing a5 and maybe bully the a7 pawn or the b6 pawn if we're able to capture that. So a4, bishop b7 on impact here immediately, and then a5. They were doing exactly what the plan was. We want to be consistent. a4 and a5. We're going to trade. We're going to make some weaknesses on the queen side that we can target, and let's see what we can do with them later. a5, b takes a5 from Alireza. Rook takes a5 to keep material even, and we just make our pieces better, improve our pieces. Knight to f6 is a great move. It improves the position. My rook can go to d8. I have a file to attack this pawn that's very weak, only defended by the knight right now, and the knight and the bishop bishop here are actually attacking e4. If you make a move like e5 here, which gains some space, looks like a great move, but you actually now expose some squares, and now I can sit here for the rest of the game. You cannot get rid of me if you tried. You have to actually use a piece to do so, but you can't do it with any pawns here, and these pawns become weaker as they push here. This is a passed pawn in a way. This is probably not the route to go. So Magnus, of course, didn't do that. He plays rook e1 to push these pawns at my leisure, says Magnus. Rook e1, rook f to d8, putting pressure on the file. Very nice move here. And catch this move here, guys. This is a very interesting, strong move, by the way, of course, is Magnus. Queen to a1. Beautiful move. Queen to a1, defending, over defending, and also attacking a7 at the same time here. Beautiful move. And now after queen a1, there's queen to c7 here. So, you know, of course, if rook takes, we have these kind of cool kind of tricks here. But queen to c5 is just, he'll be okay here. Queen to c5. You can come behind a pawn in some cases. Rook a3, rook c3, bishop c6 was a move as well. But of course, he did not capture the pawn here. After queen to c7, he actually played h3 here just to make some lift for the king, stopping g4, maybe even playing g4, g5 if you really want to get aggressive in these type of positions here. Very flexible move. You don't have to take this pawn yet. It's very weak, and if a6 happens, we are able to capture it kind of when we want to, but we may not want to. And here, actually, Alireza does play a6, and Magnus does not capture it. He actually says, we'll go rook c5. We'll attack the queen here. This pawn is always going to be weak. Let's see what he does. And then queen f4 here comes right into the position, at the same time creating a threat here, guys. And I want you, like, the theme of today is threats. I want you guys to remember this. Threats are very, very big in chess. The more threats that you make, the harder it is to play someone like you. So queen f4 here is actually attacking this pawn. And what does he do? He defends it, while also, very clever move here, cutting off the queen squares. Now, if g3 is almost trapping the queen, in some cases, I mean, let's actually see, you could actually play j3 and play this, but you're giving up, you know, or you're giving up some material here. It's still kind of balanced in a way, probably not the best way, but you can actually just trap the queen very quickly. So the queen is very short on spaces here. So after rook e5, we have to get rid of this. Now we have a square for our rook, or we have a square for our queen, while we're attacking the rook at the same time. So knight to d7, and instead of rook g5, we actually play rook a5 here from Magnus Carlsen, going right back. And actually, knight f6 here, they can repeat moves. But of course, Magnus didn't want to repeat moves. Magnus didn't want to draw here. He wants to beat Alireza. And of course, Alireza wants to beat Magnus. So after knight f6 here, he plays a very risky move. Very risky, guys. You got to be careful when you take risks, especially against strong players. But he is Magnus Carlsen, the world champion. But of course, this is a risk to take. We're sacrificing a pawn. The pawn is sacrificed here. This is a pawn that we're going to lose. He takes it immediately. I accept the sacrifice, says Alireza here. Now, capturing, why would we sacrifice just to capture here? It would not make sense to do so. We're just literally giving up a pawn for almost nothing. Maybe we can play to capture on a6. Again, this pawn is always going to be ours, and then we may draw this game. But if we wanted to draw this game, we probably would have did it right here, rook e5, and just repeat moves and go back and forth here. But d5 is not to actually capture back on d5. It's actually to play e5. Keeping the threats up, guys. Now watch the threats from here. It's going to be pretty nice. Knight e4, putting the knight in a beautiful square in the center of the board. Miraculously, actually, it's still fairly equal here, to be honest. After knight to e4, there's queen to d4, centralizing the queen, using sort of a dark square strategy. We do have two pieces on the light squares, and we have a light square bishop, but we got a lot of pieces on the dark squares, majority here. Right, so queen to d4, there's rook d to c8. Very good move here. Keeping the file open. Keeping the file open here. And actually, he's trying to do something like rook to c1 just to make some trades. I'm up a pawn now, says Alireza. I can look for trades, or at least trades at the right moment, because, of course, all rook in games are drawn, right? So at the same time here, we just don't want to trade as much, right? Magnus plays rook a to a1 here, allowing this pawn to be free a little bit. So what does he do? He plays a5. If you're going to free up the square, I'm going to push my pawn, says Alireza. And now, threats. Remember, this is the theme of today's video. Threats. Rook a to b1. That's a threat. The bishop is hanging. So what does he do? He moves it, obviously, here. And here we go, guys. When you take one risk, when you go down this path of taking risk, you got to keep going. And this is what Magnus says. e6. There it is. I'm sacrificing a second pawn. A second pawn against a prodigy. Okay, you know, Alireza, very strong here, 2,700 plus, you know, and they have a rivalry, right, at the same time. e6, f takes e6, knight to e5. So we've now taken over both squares here, but we are currently down 2 pawns. So this is going to take precision, accuracy, everything above the sun, right? So you're going to make sure that you have to be really accurate here, or you're just going to lose. You're down 2 pawns here. So this is very, very difficult. Now, queen f6 here from Alireza, just keeping a pin here at the same time and capturing. We can take our queen as well. Like, everything's defended. So queen f6 is a pretty good move, and the Magnus has to keep the threats up. You have to play aggressive. If you're going to sacrifice 2 pawns and then play passively, you should just resign, right? So queen f6, here it is, f3 on the board here, exposing, of course, our bishop's going to be open now. Knight to g5 happens, which is a nice move in some cases, playing knight f7 and trying to get this knight off of e5. Such a monster square. What do? Keep the threats up, guys. Rook b6, there it is, hitting the bishop. And now we actually have an x-ray on the e6 pawn kind of twice here, but let's see what happens. Bishop e8, great move actually. Keeping an eye on everything in a way. Knight f7 as well is still coming, and in some cases playing bishop f7. Now queen to e3 here from Magnus, very interesting move actually. Just keeping some pressure here and getting out of the pin. That's really what it's about. And then a4 here. This move is scary looking. It's a scary looking move, right? Because like, hey, if we aren't careful here, this pawn is just going to keep creeping on down, and then our only focus will be on stopping this pawn from queening. So after the a4 move, knight to g4 from Magnus, keeping the threats up. Queen's hanging. Queen's hanging, you got to move it. Queen to d8, right? And queen to d8 here, he actually had another move. I think queen e7. No, he played queen d8, right? Queen d8 was the best. But he played queen d8. But after queen d8 here, guys, what would you play in this position? Queen d8 is here. It's on the board. Queen d8. My rook is hanging, so check the board here. My rook is hanging. I need something to do. This pawn is actually defended, you know, and we're down 2 pawns. What would you do in this position? Here it is. Here it is. Are you ready? Rook takes e6. Oh my goodness, it's on the board. He just sacrificed an exchange. I'm down 2 pawns. He doesn't care about anything. Rook takes e6. Knight takes e6. Queen takes e6 check. And the worst move, guys, the worst move is actually bishop f7 here. Bishop f7 is not a move. It is not a move, guys. Ouch. And this is what happened in the game. But let's take a look at what happens if you would have played king h8. King h8, we do have queen f5 on the board here, hitting this mate. Now, of course, this is very scary here. Let's say king g8. Let's say he runs away. Well, that's not going to work. Knight takes h6, g takes, and then queen h7 is coming in. King f8, we have a check here, and king here, and a bishop g6. Very beautiful. Queen g8, king here. I think it's queen e6, king g5, f4, king takes, and queen g4 mate. Like, that's ridiculous. That's like so nice. Like, so many checks. There's this mate no matter what, basically here. So you need another piece to help you out. So after queen f5, we're going for mate. Queen b6 is with check. We have to answer the check. King h1 happens, and then bishop to g6 is actually the best move here in this position, believe it or not. If g6 happens, queen f8, king h7, and rook e7 is game over, guys. So I mean, honestly, it was a really tough position here, but the best way to play was queen b6, king h1, bishop to g6 here. And after bishop g6, believe it or not, this is actually an equal position here, due to the fact that first off, there's 2 pieces versus an exchange here. So, and we have this passed pawn, and we have this extra rook, this one here. So this is an equal position here. An equal position, believe it or not, guys. Equal position right here. Now, of course, you are playing a human here, and these guys are humans. It's going to be harder to make this equal. They're going to both play on both sides as much as they can to try to win here, but he missed it. He did not play king h8, guys. He did not play king h8. He actually played bishop f7 here, and now the finale. Can you finish this? What would you do in this position after bishop f7, the finale move? Beautiful. How do you end this off? Here it is, guys. Knight takes h6. It's on the board. It's right there. That's a move. Knight takes h6 is so beautiful. And now g takes and queen takes. And look at this, guys. Alireza definitely missed this. Queen takes h6, and there's no way to get out of things. There's no way to get out of mates. Queen takes h6. Queen to c7 is what he chose here. Of course, you could do it many ways, but this was the beautiful way that Magnus chose. Queen check. King f8. Check on h8. Bishop g8, and then you check him here. I mean, look at the geometry here, guys. Look at this. This is beautiful. Queen h6, and then after queen h6, this is over. This is a resignation here. But queen g7, and then after check, and then here, and then there's mate on e7. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. There's no other way to do anything. Of course, the file is blocked here. And now if we have king f7, there's bishop g6, king f6, bishop h5, king f5, bishop g4 is mate as well. There's mate everywhere, guys. Mate is everywhere. Beautiful here for Magnus. I mean, it started right here, actually, the double pawn sacrifice, which was great. I mean, actually, it was a great practical chance to take risk, but it wasn't as great. Now, actually, here in this position, let's just fast forward here. This is still equal, believe it or not. Magnus is down 2 pawns, but still in equal position because of activity. And Gary Kasparov actually mentions that as well. Talks about what is it? Material and activity. Activity will trump material most times. So if you have an active pieces or many active pieces, the material doesn't matter as much. Not to say it doesn't matter, because material definitely matters, but it doesn't matter as much if you're very active with your pieces. And again, look at the threats that Magnus made here. E6 was a nice move, followed by knight e5, which is sort of a threat, but it's setting up to make a threat. And then queen f6, and now we play f3, hit the knight. Knight has to move. We play rook b6. Rook's very active now. And then we play queen e3 because we need to set up to play knight g4 because our queen's hanging. And then after a4, we have knight to g4 hitting the queen. Beautiful move. Queen goes to d8. Of course, it's queen e7. He just takes it here. So, and actually, well, and h4 maybe, and then taking. But queen d8, and then rook takes e6. Beautiful move here. Absolutely ending it all. After knight takes, queen takes, bishop f7, sacking a piece. I mean, the exchange was sacrificed, 2 pawns, and a knight. Like, what a game here. Pawn takes, queen takes, and the rest is history here as he resigns from this position, actually. So he resigned actually right here. But yeah, queen h7. Yeah, but this was a great game, guys. This was Magnus Carlsen versus Alireza Firouzja, Tata Steel Chess 2021. I'm National Master James Canty III here with Game of the Day, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you on the next one.